Hello everyone, and it's time to finish off the Romans by, of course, talking about their culture and economics, and, by the way, how they all fall apart and die. So, it is all about economics. It is all about building strength. It is all about building power. And the way you build that is you build a ridiculous amount of roads, roads, and more roads. They have roads everywhere. In northern, in the southern, they go east, they go west. Look at that map. Every red line is a road. If you actually take the total amount of interstate highways in the United States of America, the Romans had more. We have about 47 to 48,000 miles of actual roadways. The Romans had almost 50,000 miles. Now we have more smaller roads and stuff, but this is huge. I mean, if you look at all of these cities, and the fact of the matter is that most of these roads are actually the basis for the road system that exists today. This is how you get around. This is how the legions come and destroy everybody if they have to, but it's how we get all the stuff, it's how we sell all the stuff. It is amazing, and those trade networks will grow, and you'll get to the point that because of these roads you can actually have a product start here in Spain, work its way across the Mediterranean, get into this area, the Holy Land, continue going into modern day Persia, hop a ship, get into India, sell and trade, hop another ship, go to China, and it's absolutely incredible. What was really interesting, though, here is the development of the latifundia. And we talked about this before in the first real development of specialized agriculture for trade. Now, unfortunately, later on, it led to food issues and that the government had to feed most of the people because people just grew crops to sell, not crops to eat. But if you look here, these five pictures are all of the plantation styles that developed over time. 3rd century France, 5th century France, and here we have Germany as well. Here is Mount Vernon in the United States. Been there, it's awesome, go. Here is Monticello. It's all the same thing. The Romans developed the plantation, and it would be used for thousands of years, and guys, it's not really any different. You have the manor house where people live. Over here you can have stables and places where the craftsmen work. They would also then develop factories. It was absolutely incredible. You get luxury goods, you get industry, and the economy is what kept Rome going, and it would keep them going for centuries. Now, Rome itself would also be crucial, that everything revolved around Rome, and this is what we think Rome would have looked like, and it was all about making it bigger and better and stronger. With that came architectural advantages that they would build on the Greeks. For instance, here you would get the creation of a barrel vault, which is basically an extended, really thick arch that makes for long hallways. Then they would create the groin vault. So see how much larger this opening is than this opening. They also made arches bigger. They were the first to make domes. And the most important invention, because the Romans really weren't great inventors, the biggest thing that the Romans did was the invention of concrete. Concrete is in everything. It is in the building that you are listening to this video in. It is on our sidewalks. It is the basis of our roads. Concrete is everywhere, and we can thank the Romans. And what did they build with all this concrete and stuff? The Pantheon, one of the greatest temples in ancient times, and the first to have a dome. It was about 140 feet across. They actually had this cool oculus in the top, and we'll be talking about more of this later, but just absolutely incredible. And they got bigger. They built a mall. My goodness, this is a mall. This is the outside of the mall. As you can see, again, the importance of this in modern day society. And as you can see here, it's not real different than the malls that we have today. Now, these might be a little bit different, but look, we go into a little building, we buy some stuff, and we keep going. They love their sports and their horse races. This is the Circus Maximus that would actually seat over 100,000 people to watch chariot races. And then, of course, they're most famous, the Coliseum. You see it here, then you see it here. The Coliseum is the basis for every modern day stadium we have today. Now, we'll talk about the impact of that and what that tells us about Rome a little bit later, since really what happened in the Coliseum is people died and people paid to watch people die. But nonetheless, let's make Rome the center of everything. And at its height, Rome would have over 1 million people. Now, the other thing about Rome is it was a patriarchal society, okay? The pater familias, the eldest male, ruled everything. And as you can see on this chart, you can see the eldest male, then his sons, his grandsons, and his great-grandsons. Look at this. The wife is actually at the same level of the daughters, the sons, and believe it or not, even the slaves. Now, we talked about how important slaves were in Rome. You've got 1/3 of the population is slavery. And so if you don't have them, it's kind of an oddity. But here is the line of succession. Daughters are over here. The wife is over here. Your family is important above all. Now, the women would have power behind the scenes. They ran the household, but they weren't owning property. They weren't going out. Their job was to run everything kind of behind the scenes. Now, the royal, or not royal, but wealthy families, I mean, the father was called the dominus and the mother called the domina, so from dominate. So she at least had a title that was important. But as you can see here, she was really in that same type of level. So unfortunately, not a lot of help for women. But what really developed in Rome was a cosmopolitan society, and we'll talk about their long-term achievements later on when we talk about like law and things along that line. But what we see in Rome was this concept that Alexander started of bringing in all sorts of different faiths. For a while, you had the spread and the acceptance of Judaism. Now, we talked about Judaism before. They're going to crush it from 66 to 70 CE, but then they'll allow the Jews to spread out. You will eventually have the spread of Christianity, which will take over their religion. You have the spread of Stoicism, this idea that Cicero was kind of the expert at, of that we're not going to worry so much about religion, but that there's a universal set of moral and governmental standards based on nature and reason, and they will put an emphasis on like science and technology. Most of it's military, but then by all their architecture, which we'll talk about in a separate presentation. And then you had other religions like Mithraism, which was a extension of Zoroastrianism, which of course, as we said, would influence Christianity. But the idea of that there was this god of the sun, or seen as an angel, and that you should have strong morals and loyalty. This actually became very popular with the Roman military. Here's Mithras, or Mithra, over here. He's always depicted as sacrificing a bull. Now, we don't know much about the religion itself because all of their ceremonies were done in secret, but it was a really interesting society. But between the trade and the architecture and the learning and the art and the religion, I mean, they were allowing it to all come together and grow, and then it just all fell apart. And the big question of the day is, how did Rome fall? Well, I'll actually talk to you later how Rome really didn't fall until the year 1453. But here's the deal. Rome got to a point where it just couldn't sustain itself. Starting around the 200s, Rome basically kept getting their leaders killed. Everybody wanted power, so the emperors were always a target. A lot of times it was big-time generals that would lead a coup. But at one point in Roman history, they had 25 consecutive emperors, right? So 25 emperors in a row. 24 of them were assassinated, and one died from the plague. So in the end, there really was weak leadership. At one point, to try to more effectively run the country, the Emperor Diocletian would separate the empire into east and west, and that spelled its doom. The east would become Constantinople and the Byzantine Empire, and we'll talk about Constantine later, but the west would be what was left. So really, I want to say from like the middle of the Balkans to Spain, and all the money went east, and so the West was pretty much doomed. Eventually, there was a decline in the military. Other people got better. And of course, the Romans kept so much power because their army was the best in the world. And oh man, plagues again. They get hit with them, and millions of people will die. And then because you have less population, they can't do all the jobs. And then you get increased poverty because no one has any money. And Rome basically becomes a welfare state, and they have to feed all their people. And the empire's too big, and they can't really defend everything. And then they have, even I'll even throw in there, they have a decreasing fertility rate because of the lead piping, and it's just getting hit and hit and hit. And then, oh my goodness, the barbarians come and they destroy everybody. Hey, guess what? They're nomads. Once again, here we go. Just look at, before I even talk, look at the map on the right. That's a map of Roman invasions by the barbarians. Okay, and again, they were called barbarians because they weren't considered to be as civilized. But I mean, when you get attacked from everybody, it's crazy. It's the Goths and the Huns and the Vandals. Basically, let me give you the short of it if you look on your notes. The first group to come in were the Goths, and the Goths came in, and you see on the map Ostrogoths and Visigoths and other just regular Goths, but they were being attacked by the Huns, who basically killed everybody. Once again, think Assyrians. And so they come into the Roman Empire, and the Romans start to figure, well, we're running out of troops, so we'll bring these Goths in, and we'll make them soldiers. But what they do is they bring them inside their borders, and they discriminate against them. They starve them, they actually steal their children, until the Goths had basically just had enough. They start to get organized. They actually defeat a Roman army and kill an emperor at the Battle of Adrianople. And so then they get a little bit of Adrianople right over here, and then they get some land to control. And then they're united under the great leader Alaric. In the year 410, Alaric creates a huge Gothic empire, and they attack, and he becomes the first ever person to actually conquer the city of Rome. Except when he conquers Rome, it is in such bad shape, and there's no food there, that they just leave, and he actually gets himself set up in modern day France. Fun fact, for his grave, the Goths actually will divert a river, bury him, and then put the river back, so we don't even know where this guy is. And so it starts to settle down, and then the Huns finally actually show up in Europe. Of course, they live in Hungary, hence Huns, but they start attacking, and they're killing everybody, and they're led by their great leader Attila, who just absolutely annihilates everybody everywhere. He actually exacts tribute from the Romans, so the Romans won't, be killed. And he is getting ready to conquer Rome and probably the empire, when to this day we don't know really what happens, but he has a secret meeting with Pope Leo I, who not surprisingly is sainted after this. But Pope Leo I somehow is able to convince Attila to leave Italy and allow Rome to survive for a little bit longer. Again, we don't know why, but maybe it was something, holy, who knows. But unfortunately, you didn't have to worry about Attila much longer. A few nights later, he gets married, he drinks too much, and he actually dies on his wedding night. But don't worry, there were a lot more to come. The Vandals start to attack North Africa and Spain, and they conquer that. And of course, they like to destroy stuff, hence vandalism. Then the Ostrogoths give the final blow in the year 493. The great Ostrogoth leader Odoacer conquers the city of Rome, shatters the empire, and actually, to give you an idea of how much Rome had fallen, the last Roman emperor, his name was Romulus Augustus, was actually so weak they don't even kill him. They just let him go to a monastery, and the great Rome is gone. Now, it still survives in the East, and we will get there, but you'll be hard-pressed to find another empire that went on such an impressive run and has left us so much today. All right, get your questions in your comments, and I'll see you tomorrow.